What's going on, guys? So I wanted to talk about something positive for once, because I feel like all the time we're absolutely inundated with negative news and it tends to dominate the cycle, so there's never anything positive out there. And I had this entire segment prepared that I wanted to talk about the FBI breaking into the elections office in Fulton County, Georgia. But what I actually want to focus on is this concert that just happened in Minneapolis, where Tom Morello, formerly of Rage Against the Machine and Audio Slave and a bunch of other projects, gave this really powerful speech. And I think it's so important in these kind of times that we have artists and famous people like this speaking out and kind of like rallying the troops, as it were. So I'm gonna play the speech and then I'll give you my reaction. Here, let's take a look.
Thank you for welcoming us to the Battle of Minneapolis. My friends, if it looks like fascism, sounds like fascism, acts like fascism, dresses like fascism, talks like fascism, kills like fascism, and lies like fascism, brothers and sisters, it's fucking fascism. It's here, it's now, it's in my city, it's in your city, and it must be resisted, protested, defended against, stood up to, exposed, ousted, overthrown, and driven out. By who? By you and by me. Minneapolis is an inspiration to the entire nation. You have heroically stood up against ICE, stood up against Trump, stood up against this terrible rising tide of state terror. You have stood up for your neighbors and for yourselves, for democracy and for justice. Ain't nobody coming to save us except us. And brothers and sisters, you are showing the way. To that end, we would like to begin our program with an old Native American war chant. We encourage you to sing along. In this very room, Prince created a revolution. Now it's our turn.
So yeah, super powerful. Obviously, like he says, if it looks like a fascist, if it talks like a fascist, if it acts like a fascist, they're fucking fascists, and that's exactly what's going on. I was supposed to actually go see him back in 2020 with Rage Against the Machine, and then they canceled the concert, unfortunately, because of COVID. But if you've never heard Rage Against the Machine's songs before, all of them are super powerful. They're all politically charged. And I kid you not, when he turned the mic around to the audience and then started playing that song, which was Killing in the Name, every single person in the audience knew every single lyric. And I think that that's so powerful. Now, the song itself is about, the lyrics are, you know, some of those who work forces are the same that burn crosses, which is a reference to, like, the people on the police force are in the KKK. It applies to ICE, obviously, that, like, these guys are fucking fascists, and what they're doing is not only deeply unpopular, but also illegal, right? But this reminds me of a speech that I've heard from Chris Hedges many times, where he talks about Marta Kubishova, where she was a very famous singer in Czechoslovakia back before it split into Slovakia and the Czech Republic after the Velvet Revolution in 1989, I want to say. But Marta's music was basically banned from anybody being able to listen to it. Nobody had heard it for years. And then she came out and did a performance and sang her song, A Prayer for Marta. And literally every single person in the audience knew every single word. And that, he talks about, is just like, that's how powerful not only music is, but just like community and resistance. And I think that the reason I want to focus on this is because, like, we're seeing the same kind of thing right now, and it's so important. especially for artists, but for anybody who has any kind of like fame or any kind of like clout with people, to come out and rally the troops and get people behind the right thing. Because you don't have to be a Rage Against the Machine fan to understand that like what's going on right now is fundamentally fascist and wrong, and nobody wants it. And the whole thing, like I said, what I was going to talk about was the stealing of the ballots from Fulton County, Georgia, and how this is the Trump regime basically setting the table for stealing the 2026 election. Because if you guys remember, in 2020, Fulton County, Georgia was kind of the epicenter of the big lie, where they were talking about how there were all of these like fake voters and illegal ballots and all of this stuff. And Trump went to court over 60 times back in 2020 with all of his goofy lawyers like Sidney Powell, the Kraken lady, and Kenneth Chesebro or however you say his name, and Rudy Giuliani, and lost every single court case. And now he's gone back into Fulton County and stolen the evidence that would prove that, by the way, that election was not stolen. But again, they're behaving as if they're never going to have to face the voters again, because everything that they're doing is deeply, deeply, deeply unpopular, and Trump's approval rating is as low as it's ever been. It's in the absolute toilet. He's down at like 35%. The only people that support him at this point are diehard MAGA mouth breathers. Whether you're talking about the economy, the tariffs, everything is upside down, foreign policy, bombing Venezuela, a country that never attacked us, stealing Nicolas Maduro, their leader, who I think another part of this whole plan is they've abducted him. And back then, one of the claims was that the Dominion voting machines were controlled by Venezuela, and Venezuela was the one who flipped the election for Joe Biden or some stupid nonsense like that. I think that what they're going to try and do is they're going to try to say to Maduro, hey, we need you to make a statement that you actually interfered in the 2020 election and that you helped Joe Biden steal it. And for that, we'll grant you your freedom and let you do whatever it is that you want to do. Again, obviously, that's a little bit conjecture, but I wouldn't put it past them because it seems to make sense. But people going to concerts like this and supporting the people who are on the front lines, like those people in Minneapolis right now who are going out in like -degree weather and blowing whistles at these ICE officers and recording what they're doing and honking horns at them and going to the hotels where they're staying and not letting them sleep and just blasting them 24/7, letting them know that we don't want you here. We don't want you here. We want you to leave. Everything that you're doing is illegal. Everything that you're doing is wrong, and it's working. There's been reporting from the people in ICE. I think it was Ken Klippenstein actually talked to some more like senior people that basically said they're like, everybody's demoralized. The guys are like, what are we doing? We don't believe in what we're doing, the mission, all of this stuff. And so the resistance is working, even though the people at the very top are not really bending. The guys who are their foot soldiers are saying like, we're not really even sure what we're doing here, right? And I think that that's good, because like once the authoritarian loses his army of people who are enforcing all of the fascistic stuff that he wants to do, then he really loses his grip on power. But the most important part to his grip on power is people just resisting everything that's going on right now. And that's whether that's showing up to protests and screaming at ICE officers, whether that's participating in these general strikes, not going to work. The people who control everything at the top, the billionaires, all of Trump's friends, they need people to provide their bodies, to provide their labor so that the whole system stays functioning. And if you're not a willing participant in their system, then they lose everything. And they will do anything in order to retain that power. And so, again, I want to focus on something positive for once, because like I said, I got goosebumps watching that speech and watching everybody in the audience recite every single lyric word for word. Everyone knew it, and that's powerful. That's powerful stuff, and it should give us all a tiny bit of hope for the future, and you know, a guidepost for where to go or where to keep going, because it is working. Anyway, hope you like that. It's a little bit of a change of speed. Like and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Please make sure to click the bell, as well as YouTube does not really like political content lately. They have massively suppressed my videos. I went from getting a couple hundred to a couple thousand views per video down to like 20. So really need your help. It takes you 2 seconds. Everything's totally free. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell. That way YouTube will actually send it to you, hopefully. Raise your fist and resist. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.